2:14 a.m. local time. On a small windswept island in the Kingdom of Bahrain, the night air is thick with the scent of salt and aviation fuel. Inside a darkened command trailer, a Patriot battery operator watches a single flickering green dot materialize on his scope. It's low, it's slow, it's bearing northeast, crawling up the Persian Gulf at a mere 110 knots. For 8 seconds, there is only the rhythmic hum of the cooling fans. Then, a second contact appears. Then a third. Within a minute, the screen is crawling with 12 distinct signatures. These are Shad kamikaze drone-swept-wing Predators powered by lawnmower engines, each packed with enough high explosives to level a multi-story building. Their destination? Naval Support Activity Bahrain, a base where 8,000 American soldiers, sailors, and their families are currently sleeping, less than half a mile from the perimeter fence. The battery commander stares at the screen, but his mind isn't on the tactical threat. These drones fly in a straight line. They are as easy to hit as a slow-moving Cessna. His true crisis is one of lethal arithmetic. A single PAC-3 interceptor costs the American taxpayer roughly $4 million. Launching one to swat a $30,000 Shad is like using a Rolex to crush a mosquito. It's effective, but the Rolex is gone forever. And every round he spends now is a round he won't have if something much faster, much larger, and much more expensive is lurking in the shadows behind this initial swarm. But in the United States military, protecting civilian life is a non-negotiable directive. The commander gives the order, the canister blows, and a PAC-3 clears the launcher on a blinding pillar of white exhaust. It is 17 feet of guided telephone pole, accelerating to Mach 5 in under 2 seconds. This isn't a traditional missile. There is no explosive warhead, no fragmentation. It is a 700-pound guided brick of kinetic energy that steers itself nose-on into the target. The Shad doesn't even detect the threat before it is shredded into confetti over the harbor. Debris rains into the dark water. The battery fires again. Same result. But the drones keep coming. Iran didn't send a dozen. They sent enough to try and drain the rack, hoping to leave the base defenseless for the real killers. If the sheer cost of this high-stakes arithmetic is shocking you, hit that like button and comment right now. Every Patriot needs to understand the price of the shield. What the battery commander didn't know, and what the world is just now finding out, is that these Shads were never meant to hit a single building. They were the hidden network of bait. While the Patriot crews were focused on cleaning up the slow swarm to the northeast, the true secret danger was already falling from the heavens. Suddenly, the scopes at Bahrain shift from observation to active threat. Fatah-1 ballistic missile, Iran's most advanced hypersonic weapon, is dropping from directly overhead in a near-vertical descent at a staggering Mach 13. It is the ultimate backdoor maneuver. While security is chasing the skateboarders in the parking lot, the professional assassin is coming through the roof. The warhead slams into a service center just 130 feet from the command hub. A second missile flattens a satellite uplink dish. 2 hits. The ground shakes with a force that feels like an earthquake. In that moment, the Iranian commanders likely believed they had paralyzed the U.S. Fifth Fleet. They believed they had severed the administrative nervous system of the American presence in the Gulf. But they forgot one thing. The U.S. military doesn't build single points of failure. Losing that satellite dish was like someone cutting your landline when you've got a cell phone, a satellite phone, and the neighbor's Wi-Fi password. The communications rerouted within 60 seconds. The Fifth Fleet did not miss a single beat. But 50 miles across the water in the UAE, the scope at Al-Udeid Air Base was beginning to fill up with hundreds of inbound contacts. The ghost swarm was over. The real storm was just beginning. As the second and third salvos of Iranian ballistic missiles crossed the Qatari coastline in stacks, the operators at the Combined Air Operations Center, CAOC, didn't flinch. They didn't leave their consoles. The air war doesn't pause just because the enemy decided to shoot back. We are moving from a state of defense to a state of total, calculated dominance. The attack on Bahrain was merely a litmus test. The true maze of this conflict lay 50 miles across the water at Al-Udeid Air Base in the UAE, the nerve center for all American air operations in the Middle East. At 3 a.m. local time, the scopes inside the Combined Air Operations Center, CAOC, began to pulse with a terrifying frequency. This wasn't a swarm of drones anymore. It was a coordinated, high-velocity deep dive by the Iranian Aerospace Force. Iranian ballistic missiles began crossing the Qatari coastline in rhythmic stacks. This is a tactic designed to saturate a defense system, launching a second salvo while the first is being intercepted, followed by a third, ensuring the Patriot batteries are caught in a permanent cycle of reloading. Inside the CAOC, the atmosphere was clinical. There was no shouting, no panic. The air war against Iran did not pause. PAC-3 MSE missile segment enhancement. Operator picked up the lead track at 40 miles out. In under 2 seconds, the system's computer had already calculated the speed, the ballistic trajectory, and the probable point of impact. The commander gave the confirmation, and the canister blew. The PAC-3 MSE is the meaner brother of the standard Patriot. It uses the same hit-to-kill technology, but with a more powerful motor and altitude thrusters similar to those NASA uses to dock spacecraft. At a closing speed of over 8,000 miles per hour, the interceptor in the Iranian warhead met 80,000 feet above Doha. At that velocity, physics takes over. Both objects simply cease to exist, converting instantly into a spray of microscopic particles that will drift in the upper atmosphere for days. For 90 seconds, every single Iranian missile met an American interceptor on the way up. It was a mechanical rhythm, a paper trail of fire in the sky, executed by crews who had run this exact simulation 10,000 times. But even the most advanced shield has its limits. Iran managed a single success at Al-Udeid through a maneuvering warhead trick. A warhead equipped with small lateral thrusters fired at 30,000 feet, shifting its trajectory just enough to slide past interceptors already committed to its original path. 2 warheads and 1 low-flying shod slipped through the window. An early warning radar took damage, and a section of the flight line was cratered. Inside the CAOC, the lights flickered. Coffee cups slid across consoles. But the mission did not falter. Within the hour, Rapid Set Concrete, a specialized military compound that acts like superglue for runways, was already being poured into the craters. The air campaign continued without interruption. The Iranian commanders thought they had blinded the giant. They didn't realize that an E-3 Sentry AWACS was already orbiting at 30,000 feet, performing the exact same job as the damaged ground radar. However, as the sun began to rise over Kuwait, the maze shifted from high-tech intercepts to a brutal battle of endurance. Over Ali al-Salem Air Base, the sky sounded like a thunderstorm that refused to move on. This was the largest combined barrage any missile defense battery has faced in the history of modern warfare. 380 inbound ballistic missiles and drones stacked together in a wall of steel. The Kuwaiti and American Patriot crews were about to set a record that may never be broken. The math of ballistic defense is unforgiving. Standard procedure dictates firing 2 interceptors at every 1 inbound threat. If the first misses, the second is already there to catch the leaker. But that means you are burning through your magazine twice as fast as the enemy is firing. Reload after reload. The teams worked under the strobe light flicker of their own launches. The pace was relentless. This wasn't a peacetime exercise, this was a 3-hour marathon of continuous engagement. The investigation into this night would later reveal a startling statistic: 380 engagements, 380 kills. A perfect record. A zero-leaker performance under conditions no textbook had ever dared to simulate. But while the Patriot was handling the atmosphere, the most expensive piece of the Iron Shield was about to be tested in the blackness of space. At 3:47 a.m., a THAAD's Terminal High Altitude Area Defense operator at Al-Dafra Air Base received a notification of 2 high-arc ballistic tracks originating from deep within Iranian territory. THAAD is the result of 30 years of development and billions of taxpayer dollars. It is designed to kill missiles where the sky stops being blue and starts being space. The battery fired. A single-stage solid rocket motor pushed the interceptor through the troposphere and into the stratosphere. At 60 miles altitude, the nose cone separated, and a kinetic kill vehicle about the size of a basketball flew free. Think about the precision required. 60 miles up, in the thin, freezing vacuum of space, this basketball-sized object is steering itself into a target moving at Mach 8. There are no explosives here. It is mass meeting mass at a combined closure speed that would cross the entire United States in 12 minutes. The seeker locked on against the cold background of space. The thrusters fired millimeter corrections, and the 2 objects met head-on. Kinetic energy converted both into vapor instantly. 2 bright flashes appeared above Abu Dhabi, flashes so bright they were photographed by civilians on the ground. The maze was being solved. piece by piece, by American engineering and cool-headed operators. But as the defense held firm, the F-35 pilots in Jordan were preparing to turn the shield into a sword. The Iranians had used Chinese commercial satellites to get perfect intelligence on American hangars. But perfect data is useless if you can't stop the jets from taking off under fire. The Iranian strategy was built on a singular hope, that American resolve would crumble once the Iron Shield was saturated. But at Muwafaq Salti Air Base in Jordan, that hope met a cold, mechanical reality. At the height of the barrage, 49 projectiles were converging on the base simultaneously. This wasn't just a military strike, it was a test of the American pilot's psychological limits. Inside the cockpit of an F-35A, a pilot was running his final pre-takeoff checks when the air raid sirens began their mournful wail. To his left, the horizon was already illuminated by the frantic white arcs of Jordanian interceptors climbing into the night. Suddenly, the ground buckled. A ballistic warhead punched through the base perimeter, the shockwave vibrating through the F-35's heavy landing gear. Smoke began to billow off the left canopy as a nearby structure took a direct hit. In that moment, the Iranian perfect intelligence gathered from high-resolution Chinese commercial satellites seemed to be winning. They knew exactly where the fuel points were. They knew where the command posts sat. They knew where the hardened shelters were located. But they didn't account for the rapid set resolve of the ground crews. The pilot did not abort. He advanced his throttle to military power, feeling 43,000 pounds of thrust press him into his seat. He released the brakes and accelerated down a runway illuminated by the strobing flashes of Patriot missiles launching overhead. As he rotated into the dark, his base was still taking fire behind his tail. This is the new face of American air power. Launching combat sorties from a base under active bombardment, landing, rearming, and launching again before the first crater is even dry. While the land bases held their ground, the IRGC made its most fatal mistake of the day. They targeted Carrier Strike Group 3 in the northern Arabian Sea. The USS Abraham Lincoln heeled into a violent, hard turn, its four massive screws churning the sea into a white froth, as 100,000 tons of warship pivoted to present the smallest possible radar cross-section. The escort's Aegis cruisers and destroyers didn't wait for the carrier to find safety. Their SPY-1D phased array radars had already locked onto the threats before they even cleared Iranian airspace. The outer ring of the defense fired first. SM-3 interceptors cleared the vertical launch cells in a cloud of fire, shedding their boosters as they climbed into the vacuum of space. Like the THAAD systems on land, these guided bricks met the Iranian warheads in the exoatmosphere, threading the needle at 10,000 miles per hour. Two bright flashes illuminated the signal bridge. 2 tracks gone. But a pair of Shad drones, hugging the water at just 50 feet, tried to sneak under the radar. They got within a few thousand yards close enough to see from the flight deck before the Lincoln CRAM system rippled 2 missiles into the air. The infrared seekers homed in on the heat of the drone engines, scattering wreckage across the waves just miles from the hull. The defense was a 100% success. And then, Lincoln stopped being a target and became a predator. 15 minutes later, the catapult steam was building again. The Black Aces of VFA-41 weren't launching a routine patrol. They were loaded to maximum gross weight with GBU-31 JDA miss. 14 jets, launched in 9 minutes, a relentless cycle of steel, and fire aimed directly at the IRGC's underground command bunkers in Isfahan. Iran took their best shot. It bought them exactly 15 minutes of an empty flight deck. Now, every Iranian missile was being answered with 2,000 pounds of American retribution. The scope of the failure for the IRGC is staggering. Out of over 1,000 projectiles fired across the region, the operational impact on U.S. forces was effectively zero. The zero-leaker performance at Kuwait and the space-tier intercepts over the UAE have rewritten the textbook on integrated missile defense. The Rolex math worked. The casualties of the night were not from direct hits, but from the physics of shrapnel from successful high-altitude intercepts raining down on staging areas. It was a small price for the survival of 8,000 personnel in Bahrain and the continued operation of the Fifth Fleet. History will remember this night as the moment the Iron Shield proved it could not be broken. But we must remain vigilant. Freedom is not a gift, It is a shield that must be manned every hour of every night. Iran's 1,000-missile barrage did little more than inconvenience commercial aviation, and prove that American technology remains the undisputed king of the sky. If you want to see how the US and its allies transition from this defense into the total dismantling of the IRGC's infrastructure, you must subscribe now. This investigation is far from over.